Okay, this is called a complete guide to the question types I use. And I have to caveat that because I am not an expert on every single question type. However, I use a majority of the question types. So we're going to go through how to add the question types that I can help you with. Although if you want to try one that I haven't shown you today, I'm not saying you shouldn't try it. Give it a go and maybe come and meet with me and we'll try to see if we can figure out if there's anything we could have done differently on using it. Again, don't hesitate to meet with me on any of these things on my tech time. So let's get looking at the different kinds of questions that we can add in Moodle and how I go about adding them. Okay, there are two ways to add quiz questions into our bank of questions. Okay, there's three. One of which is to import. If you've got exam view and you want to import them, that's a process of a different video that I've gone through and shown, and I can definitely help you with that. But there's two different ways to add questions. I can either do it on the course page by just clicking on Question Bank and clicking, well, I'm already in questions. As soon as I clicked on Question Bank, I can hit Create a New Question here. Or inside any quiz, I can go and say Add a New Question. Exactly the same thing, and they show up at exactly the same place. It doesn't matter where you do it. So I'm going to go ahead and click it here since this is the page I'm at. And I'm going to work my way down through all the question types that are available on here. And I'm going to kind of skip through on the video the act of me typing so that you don't have to watch me add all those things. Okay, so the first one is multiple choice. Just so you know, as soon as you click on any of these choices, it gives you a little text explanation over here to the right. Obviously, most of us know what a multiple choice question is, so I just click on multiple choice and click Add. The first thing you're going to see is the category, and here is where you're going to go to the drop down and you're going to pick which category. I'm going to say Chapter 1. So this will then be available in my Chapter 1 category when I go to add pre-existing questions later. So when I make another quiz and I want to reuse this question, I can just drop down to Chapter 1 and it'll show all the Chapter 1 questions. Okay, things that are asterisked. Here, here, and here, we have to answer those things. Question name. No one sees this but you. And I personally, in my question names, put in the chapter and the objective or ICANN number so that I know whether I've asked questions on a particular ICANN. So I'm just going to say 1-1 for my own edification here, and then I put in what the basic question that I'm going to put it in. Okay, so my question is, from the following list, which is not a biome? I don't even know what the biomes are to answer my question, but I Googled it. I'm going to go down here. The next thing is default points. This is a weighting scale on what things are worth more than others. And so this is something you can say everything's worth 1 point. I do not, because there are essay questions that are worth more. There are matching questions that are worth more. There are drag and drop that are worth more. I have true and false worth less. So my rule is default points for a multiple choice is 2. And that's a weighting scale so that I get something else worth 1, something else worth 3 or 4, so that I can weigh inside a quiz how much certain questions are worth. So to me, multiple choice is 2. So from the following list, which is not a biome, there are 5 blocks available for answers, and I put aquatic, grassland, forest, desert, tundra. Those are the 5 biomes according to National Geographic over here that I just read. And that's not enough blanks because those are all real biomes. I want to say which one is not a biome, so I can say give me 3 more choices. So I added 3 more choices down there. And on the 6th one, I'm going to say ocean. If I could spell, there we go. And I'm going to say that's the right answer. That's worth 100%. So tundra is right, desert is right, forest is right, grassland is right, and aquatic is right, but ocean is wrong. So I said which one is not. So it's 100% of the answer. And that is it for that question. Now, down here you can have general feedback. If you wanted to have something for them to read, I don't do that ever. And by default, it's one answer only. And I'm going to show you how to use the other options there on the next time I go over it. Do you want to shuffle the choices? Default is yes. I always want them shuffled. So student B can be next to student A, and they see all the choices in different orders. So if he said B and I go, oh, it's B, it's not B. So I always shuffle the choices. I leave that the way it is. These answers, by the way, are one word, but you have a whole block of, you can add pictures, you can add videos, you can add anything you want to in those Moodle blocks for the optional answers in there. And I frequently have pictures with hyperlinks that they have to go and read something before they answer a question on some of my instructional quizzes that they have. So that gets you no grade, so that's none. And you can see it goes from positive 100 to negative 100. None just means you don't get any points. So, and because there's only one answer allowed, there has to be one thing that's right. You can have feedback on, I don't use this, there's a lot of extra work to add combined feedback. And if they do it multiple tries, how many points do you take off? And that was on that setup section when it talked about different ways you can grade. This is saying that it's going to take off 1/3 of the points every single time you get it wrong. And you can give them hints every time so that, hey, if they get it wrong, here's a little hint on what the right answer is. And if they get it wrong again, they'll lose another 33%. They get a second hint. You can add more hints because you could say, hey, they only lose 10% each time, so I'm going to give them 10 hints. I will tell you I don't do this, but some people do. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Save Changes because I've made that question, and now it's in my quiz. And this little icon means it's multiple choice. This lets me change the question if I need to. This lets me preview it. I'm going to go ahead and preview it and see what it looks like. It says from the following list, which is not a biome. And I always do this. I say fill with correct answer to make sure the one I wanted to be correct is the one that's being graded as correct. And it says ocean is not a biome, and that's correct because it's aquatic, right? That's it. So that's what that question looks like. I also have the delete button. Do not have the ability to delete a question from a quiz once the quiz has been taken by a single student. You cannot delete a question because you gave them a bad question. You can see the default of 2. I could change this to 0 later if I was like, oh, that was a bad question. I forgot to go over that or whatever. Okay, so that's how to add a quiz. I'm going to go over here to my question bank and refresh this. And now, oh, I don't have chapter 1 selected. Now I've got that question from chapter 1. Now I'm going to make a copy of it just to show you how to do that. I can go and say duplicate. And when I do that, it opens up the question as a duplicate question. It says copy at the end. Oops. So I'm changing this question. I'm making a copy of it. And now I'm going to go down here and instead of saying one answer only, I'm going to say multiple answers. So now they have to pick all the ones that are biomes, and now I have to change this. So there's 5 right answers, so each right answer is going to be worth 20%. So I have to make it add up to 100 with multiple choice ones. So now I'm saying each one of these right answers is worth 20%. Oh, I gotta click right. And now, what do I do with ocean? Ocean is wrong. So I'm going to make it worth negative something. So there's 2 schools of thought here. I could make it worth 20% to say if they click them all, they don't get it all right. I don't do that. I say it's minus 100%. If you click them all, because you're just like, yeah, you got the question wrong. Because clicking this one gives you a minus 100% on the grade. So I'm going to hit Save Changes on there. And now I've got a second one, and I'm going to preview that one right here. Right here, Edit, Preview, to see what that look. Which of from the following list, which are biomes? Now, if you remember, it was a circle before because you could only check one. Now I can check all of them, and I'm going to hit fill with correct answers, everything but the ocean is a biome. And so if they did that, they would get 100%. If they did this, they'd get 80, 60, 40, 20, nothing. And if they click them all, because ocean was a negative 100%, that's also worth nothing. So that's the way that would look. I'm going to go ahead and close that preview. Now I'm back over here at my quiz, and I wanted to do that so I could kind of show you. Now I can add from the question bank. Now I have this other one, and by the way, always make it say something different because like I said, I see that, and then the beginning of the question, it cuts it off there. So I'm going to add that question by clicking on it in the checkbox and say add question to quiz. So now I've got two questions, and those are the two kinds of multiple choice. I can say pick one or pick multiple on multiple choices. So I've kind of used one to make a copy of the other one to show you how to do both those things. Okay, next kind of question is I'm going to add a new question again, and we're going to add true or false. True or false are simple. You can see because I just did one in chapter 1, now it's remembering that I'm adding questions to chapter 1. So I'm going to add, and I should make that a question mark, shouldn't I? Okay, so I've just made a statement. I usually add the word true or false there. You might want to even do this, true or false, the ocean is a biome. And then I live default is 1, and down here, you just say what the correct thing is. So the correct is false. Ocean is not a biome, right? So you just leave it at false. If the answer is true, you could say true, but that's false. Or I could be mean and say true or false, the ocean is not a biome, and then it would be true. You could have, again, general feedback on this. You could have feedback now on every single answer. Here's what they see if they said true, no, the biomes are bleh, and false, no, the biomes are bleh. You could have that kind of feedback show up, and that's it. I save and I add, and now you can see this one has a slightly different look to it. And if I want to preview what it looks like, true or false, the ocean is a biome. I always do that again, fill with the correct answer. That is false, the ocean is not a biome, so I know it's going to grade it correctly. I'm going to go ahead and show this while I'm here. You see it kind of makes it look like those two are on the same page. If I hit repaginate, it will go and make it so each one of the questions is on a separate page. Again, these are going to all get shuffled, and you can see that this one is only worth 1 point compared to the other ones. Okay, next question that we can add there is the next one when we add a new question is matching. I use matching questions a lot, and I'm going to go ahead and hit add, and we're going to go. Okay, let's take a look at what I've added here. So match the biome with the description. I've gone and said default points is 4. You could even say 5 since they're matching 5 different things up here. I left it as shuffled, so it's going to shuffle those things. And then I have the 5 biomes with the description I pulled off National Geographic. So I have the aquatic, grassland. I put this small answer or the smallest word on the matching in the answer column and the largest part of it in the question column. It doesn't really matter which one, but the answer is going to be what's in the drop down. It's easier to drop down one word than it is to drop down a big huge thing. You could do it either direction. So I had to hit show more, add more blanks at the bottom in order to get all 5 on there. And you've got all 5 with what they are. I have a 6th one that says ocean. And the reason I did that, you can have more answers than there are things to match it with. I've gone and had ocean in 2 other questions. If they think ocean is a biome, then not having it here tells them the answer to the other questions. So if I just had the 5 matching the 5, I would in effect have the answer to the other 2 questions in this question. Now, all students may not catch that, but the whole point is, am I actually assessing whether they know that ocean is not a biome or not? And I could add more blanks and have more things down there as well if I wanted to. So you can't have anything in here in the question, or we'll have to match, but I could have as many answers as I want on the drop down. So I'm going to save changes and show you what that looks like. So it says, oh, I didn't click on the right one. I meant to do the matching one right below it. So it says match the following terms with the description, and you can see they've got all those, including ocean, which was a gotcha on the previous questions that they can go and drop down. I'm going to take this as a spot because there's a lot of potentially reading in this one to show you how you can also add the recordings to your questions. So if I wanted them to be able to have this read to them, and I do this with all my IEP and 504 questions, I'm going to hit enter, and then I have to hit this down arrow, and all of a sudden I have a microphone button there. And I can go and put the recording of this in there so my students that are limited readers don't have to read all this. So if I hit that, it's got to have this little pop-up, and I'm going to hit start recording. Bodies of water surrounded by land or the ocean, coral reefs, and estuaries. And I could go and see what it sounds like. Bodies of water surrounded by land or the ocean. Okay, and I can go ahead and attach that. And I could do that then for all my questions down here, and I'll show you what that looks like when it's done. Regions that are dominated by grass and have a warm, dry climate. I don't know why that was popping around on me. There we go. And I'll just do those two just to show you what it looks like. Now on this matching, it does make it kind of fill up the page a little more, but now the students under each one, regions that are dominated by grass and have a, and I would obviously have it for all of them because it looks kind of weird with only a couple of them having that on there. I basically go through and any questions that are on the 504 IEP quizzes for my students, particularly the summative ones that really matter for their course grades, I have all of them. I've recorded all of them for them so that they can listen to them in class. Do they need to listen to this one-word answer? I think not. And I can't make it record a one-word answer in there. So that's the other reason I put the bigger part in the left under the question so that they can have the question read to them and just drop down the one-word answer that they're matching it with. So that is matching. And oh, and I could also, just to make sure, I could go ahead and say fill in correct responses to make sure those match the way I think they should. Okay, so let's go to the next kind of question, and I'm going to go ahead and add a new question. So we've done multiple choice, true, false matching. Short answer is one I don't use very often. Okay, so I made a question called, what is an area largely based on the geography and climate of the region? And the answer to this, for this class that I'm doing is a biome. I'm going to make it worth 2 points. So here's where the answers go. And you can use wildcards in there. And so it says you must provide at least one possible answers. Answers left blank will not be used. Star can be used as a wild card to match any characters. The first matching answer will be used to determine the score in the feedback. So I'm going to put star biome, star, and say that's worth 100%. So as long as whatever they type has the word biome in it, they're going to get 100%. Now here's the problem. Well, I could leave it like that, and I could say that if they don't know how to spell the word biome, then they get it wrong, and that's the way it is. And that's fine if that's the way you grade. But what if you've got students that are bad spellers? And so you might say that if they are dyslexic and they put it in that way but don't spell it right, they still get 75%. And the way short answer answers is it goes from the top down. The first thing that matches is the points they get. So if they type the word biome, they're going to get 100%. If they misspell the word biome in this specific way, they'll get 75%. If you want them to make a whole statement, you can put a whole statement in there with wildcards. I just have a hard time using this particular one for many questions This may be a perfect example of a good short answer question to see if they get it. And you will find out when you look at students' answers, oh, they thought I meant this, and then you can add more wildcard options and regrade the thing later to change it. But that's all it is to a short answer. And I would only use them to look for a word that's the right word. I use, what is the thing that does majority of the computing or the processing in a computer? And the answer is CPU, and they have to put in CPU. But sometimes they'll type out the whole word for CPU, so I have to put that in there, and then they'll misspell processor, and I end up with a whole bunch of different options, and that's why I don't love short answer. Although it obviously for this one works out perfectly well. That you're just trying to find out if they know that that's what a biome is, and putting the stars on either side is really important, because if they typed a biome and you didn't put the stars, they would get it wrong. If you have the star on either side of the word biome, it's saying it doesn't matter what's before it, doesn't matter what's after. I just need this word to be in the answer, and you'll get the whole thing correct. And you can see here, no, case is not important, or you could say yes, case must match. So in the case of CPU, that's an acronym. It should all be uppercase. So they do not get full credit if they put CPU in lowercase. They only get full credit if they put CPU in uppercase. Biome obviously doesn't fall into that category. So that's it for short answer. It's pretty easy. Okay, another new question. Let's go on the next one. Numerical. So I'm going to ask the question, how many biomes are there? And I'm going to leave it worth 1 point. So the answer, and you can have more than one, and you can see you can have an error. In fact, the right answer is 5 with an error of 0, and you get 100%. And I've got no other answer on there. However, if this was a math problem, you might want to say the answer is whatever with a deviation of so much, and you could have that worth something. You can add more, and you can have other options that give you different grades in a numerical answer question that asks you, how many whatever, or a math problem. But that's what it's getting at. What is the final answer? I usually have to say, don't give me anything other than the number in the block, because sometimes they'll put other stuff in. That's it for a numerical question. And if you want to know what any of these are, again, you can hit that. From the student's perspective, a numerical question looks like a short answer question. The difference is that the numerical answer is allowed to have an acceptable error. This allows a fixed range of answers to be evaluated as one answer. For example, answers to 10 with an acceptable error of 2, then the numbers 8 to 12 will be correct answers. So depending on whether it's math or like this, how many biomes are there? There's only one correct answer. That is it for a numerical answer question. Let's see. Let's go to the next one. And the next one is essay. Essay is the kind of question that I only add in general to my my summative tests, because this one requires me to go in and manually grade it every single time, which gives me better feedback for my students, but also doesn't allow things to be graded and evaluated quickly and easily. And so I don't use essay questions for short cycle assessments, because it doesn't make it short, because I can't just see how kids did. I have to go through and grade all the answers and then see how people did. Terrible. Okay, so I could put that in there as well. So then down here, it's going to say, okay, how are they going to get? They're going to get a full editor. The student has to enter text in order to answer it. How many lines of text do you allow them? You can say up to 40 lines. If you want to have a big, huge one, I'll leave it there. You can have it allow attachments. No, I'm not going to do that. And then information for graders. Nothing else there. So I'm going to hit Save Changes. So this one, all they see is this, write, I gotta fix that, write minimum of one paragraph on a Tundra. They see that, and at the bottom they see a little thing that says save on there. So let me fix that question, Tundra. So that's an essay question. On an essay question, when it comes back, I will see that I have to go and manually grade those. Obviously, there's nothing there yet in order to grade the essay questions. So that is an essay question. Again, I have those on every single one of my quizzes. Of my summative tests to get better information back from my students. I do, however, use drag and drop into text a lot. So drag and drop into text is great. It emulates questions just like students will see on their state testing. So this allows us to drag text into boxes on a screen. So I'm going to go ahead and add a question up here. And I'm going to drag out words that I want them to pull into this description. And that may not be great, but I'm going to go ahead and do it that way. So I have choices here, and I have to put a box number next to the correct one in there. So I'm going to take out the word forests, and that is going to be the first word that they have to drag up there. So you see that one up there, and I have to put forests down here. This is how I do it. I think it's the easiest for me to type the thing. Forests are dominated by, I'm going to take that one out, trees, and put that down here. Are dominated by trees and cover about 1/3 of the earth, just to let you see what fill in the blank looks like. Now, right now, I've only got 3 words in there. This is really easy. I'm going to go ahead and hit save and just show you what that looks like. And this might be fine for a very basic class. So they can see forests are dominated by trees and covered with there's insects and mammals. It's a pretty easy question because I didn't give them any other options. So I can easily then also go in and give them other words that don't make sense. Okay, I'm going to say tundras. I'm going to say bushes. And I'm going to say dinosaurs. I don't know if I spelled that right yet. We'll pretend I did. I'm going to hit save and continue editing. If you do that, then you'll see the preview down here at the bottom, and we can see what that looks like now. So now I've got some other options, and you see these are not shuffling, and I want to shuffle them. I got to hit that shuffle, save changes, because that makes it a little bit harder on there. There we go. So blank are dominated by blank. Forests are dominated by trees. They contain much of the world's biodiversity and mammals. Okay, so that's a basic pull-in. Now I'm going to show you a couple of advanced things that I can do. Number one, I can make these be unlimited, so the choices don't disappear when they pull them up there. And I can group them together to say this first choice is group A, and you're going to have the choice of tundra or forests. Group B will be trees or bushes, and group C will be mammals or dinosaurs. Or dinosaurs. There we go. And I'm going to save, and then I'm going to preview that. And now these things are color-coded. That now they can see that, okay, these are my 2 choices for this. Is it tundras or forests are dominated by trees or bushes? Oh, forests are dominated by trees. They can name much of the world's biodiversity, including insects and mammals. And I'm not sure why unlimited didn't stay over there. I should have seen this not go away, but it doesn't really matter. That's what the grouping does there. The groups allows them to see it more as a word list of these are my options. So I could list all of the different biomes here as group A, and they have to pick which one is dominated by my drag or drop. So there we go with that one. The next one is drag or drop markers. So Drag or drop markers allows, well, let's go ahead and show you what it is. Markers are dragged and dropped onto a background image. Okay, I can't tell if I spelled right. Yeah, looks like it did. Okay, so this one's going to be worth a bunch of points. I'm going to say default 5. So we're going to drag things onto an image here. So first of all, I have to have a background image that I'm going to drop in to right here, and then I'm going to mark where those images go in my picture, and then the students are going to drag them in there. So I'm going to grab some images and pause for a second. Okay, I've gone and made a, taken a picture and put some boxes in it to say, these are the things I want them to label in this map of biomes that I've got here. So I've gone and made that. And so now I'm going to say what my markers are. So I'm going to say, I'm going to go ahead and list. Okay, I've clicked shuffle drag items each time the question is attempted so that they don't try to memorize where things are. I've got my 5 biomes as listed on the National Geographic site. And my 6th one that I've been just kind of mean, I'm going to stick with that ocean one to see how long I can mislead them. I can also say that each thing can only be used once or whether it just gets left there on the list when they do it. So there's my markers, the things I'm going to drag up. And now I have to do my drop zones. And my drop zones I can say are circles, polygons, or rectangles. And when I say it's a rectangle, you can see it went ahead and dropped coordinates in there, and it's right up there. And now I'm going to drag the coordinate down and drag it over that area and say that, hey, drop zone 1, and that is my forest area, is going to have the marker of forest dragged to it, and it has to be dropped in there. Wow, this is so much easier than in previous versions of Moodle. I can't believe it. I used to have to put the coordinates in. It was crazy. So I'm going to go and say rectangle again for drop zone 2, and then I'm going to drag it over here to my tundra, if it will let me. There we go. Drag it over here to my tundra and drag the box around the tundra. You do not have any idea how much easier this is than it used to be. See how those coordinates are all putting in there? I used to have to figure those out on my own. Shape number 3, I did all rectangles. I thought it was easier to do that with my box. I'm going to go and make this my aquatic. And my last shape, do a rectangle there again. Click on, oh my gosh, I just can't believe how much easier this is than it used to be. This is my grasslands here. And then I go down here and pick grassland. Save changes and continue editing because I want to preview this. And then I hit preview, and this is what it's going to look like now. Label the biome with the appropriate marker. They're going to drag this up. Now, here's one of the things that you need to make sure your students understand. It's grading that crosshair right there. It's not grading the words. That is wrong. That is right. It's the crosshair that has to be in the area. So forest goes up there, desert goes up there, grassland goes down there, and oops, aquatic. I did ocean. I suckered off on my own thing. No. And tundra goes up there. Let's see if I hit fill with the correct answers. Let's see if they all put them where we thought. Yes, and see how it puts the crosshairs right in the middle of the thing. That is a drag and drop marker. I use those for all kinds of questions. I think it's one of the best open source. Now, you don't have to have the boxes. You can have a picture of a cell and say label the cell. I use it on labeling motherboards. The thing is, without the boxes, it's hard to make sure where you think they're going to drop it and where they're going to drop it match. So that was the drag and drop markers. The next one is drag and drop on image, which is so very close to the same thing. I use the markers one, and I haven't used this one since the new Moodle change. We'll see how that one works out. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to use the same picture enable. It labels the biomes. Down here, it has a spot for the image. All I did was take My image is right here, and I just dragged it right there. And as soon as I do, it shows up, and then the preview shows up down here. The only difference now is I can drag pictures onto pictures. Whereas on the other one, I'm dragging those words up, the markers up. Now I can drop more pictures down here to drag up there, or I can just say something like forest. Let me go and do, I don't think it's going to let me do this. Save and continue editing and preview. You can see it's almost the same thing that I can drag those into. Oh, I didn't add drop zones compared to the way the other one works. Now I've got to go and say actual give the coordinates of the drop. Oh, it lets me do it. Oh, it lets me still drag it down there. Okay. So it's letting me drag it down there and say that's where the draggable item goes. Let's go ahead and save this and preview it. I have not used this one since it did it this way. Oh, and it shows the outline of where the word goes right there. So it lets you go and say that goes there. Basically the same thing. Because this one allows you to drag pictures, you could have something like drag the mammal to the correct biome that it lives in, and you could have pictures of your animals instead, and they drag the pictures to the area as opposed to dragging words to the area. I guess that would be a good use of that as well. So that is the drag and drop onto image. You still drop an image on there, and then you say what you're going to drag around, whether it's text or a picture, and then you have to specify the drop zone of where that thing goes, which is still actually pretty easy by making it so I just drag the image down to the spot on the picture where it goes instead of putting this in. I guess I could still tweak this if I wanted to move it a little bit, but wow, this is way easier than it used to be to do that kind of question. We're pretty much done with the question types. Random short answer matching. I have never used that one. I'm going to try it and select the missing words. As it looks like same thing, drag and drop into text, where you drag the words into the text. In fact, that looks like exactly the same setup as the drag and drop into text that we just went over. So pretty much the same thing. You can see the icons that show up here on the side say what kind of question it is. I'm going to jump over to mine since we've shown you all the different question types, to kind of show you why I have those things categorized. Here's chapter 1, and when you get them done, you can see chapter 1 has 49 questions, 3 essays, and 32 I made an unused category that I don't use anymore. Whenever a question I'm like, I don't like that one, I throw it in the unused and maybe go back later to edit it. You can see chapter 2 has 36. Some of the chapters have way more. Chapter 4 has 73 with 10 different essays, 42 unused. I don't have any essay questions in chapter 5. I don't believe that at all. I don't have any essay questions in chapter 5. That is the one chapter that has no essay question. In my question bank, you can see when I made the question and when I edited it last. You can see what I mean by the in fact, I'm going to order it by question name. When I look at these, I can see how many of each question I have hit each icon or each ICANN. For instance, I can see I only have 2 on ICANN number 2, but I have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 covering ICANN number 1. I don't know what that is off the top of my head. Maybe I prioritized it that way and I really want that, or maybe when I go through I need to go, oh man, I really underemphasized that section. I need to go over that section again. Or I can conversely use it at the end after a assessment to see if there's anything that any ICANN that I didn't cover well, because that ICANN is the one that has the issue. Okay, that's how to add all the different question types. You can see over time you end up building a huge question bank for yourself, and that's one of those things that now in my hardware class, if I want to go and make a short cycle assessment, I can go and just say, hey, I want to add a quiz. I'm just going to hit that, hit save, and then I can change, and now I can add my questions to the quiz. Say, hey, I want to add questions. Oh, I didn't mean new. I want to add questions from chapter 2, and now I have all those available, and I can go, oh, I want this one and this one and this one. Am I checking anything? No. Come on. There we go. Any number of ones that I have, and then just say add questions, and I've made a new quiz that quickly and that easily. In my class, I use quizzes for all my short cycles assessments as I'm doing instruction. So you can see I'm just on chapter 6. These are the activities I teach. 5 to 15 minutes, do a short cycle. 5 to 15 minutes, do a short cycle. 5 to 15 minutes, do a short cycle. And when I do that, I stop immediately. I go and look and see how my students did on the initial take of that quiz. I recover things that the class didn't get right. Find out if they have any questions on it, because there has to be a reason they got something wrong. Before I move on with the next set of instruction, I use those quizzes as those breaking points in my class and a quick and easy way for me to get feedback immediately in my class. That is it for quiz questions.